We're on our second part overview of microcontrollers, sensors, and actuators. Okay, so medyo we're quite specific right now. Um, although microprocessors are also widely used in embedded systems, well, our talk is focusing more on microcontrollers since we are giving more emphasis on what are the first things that beginners must know about embedded systems. Okay, and meaning how to make it easier for them. Okay, so um, more often than not, it's easier to start with learning embedded systems through Arduino and ESP projects rather than directly on Raspberry Pi based projects. Okay, so that's why we're more specific right now on the microcontroller side. Okay, and we're going to look at how it or how do we connect sensors and actuators to microcontrollers. Okay, so let's see. Right. So microcontroller board designed for specific tasks, just like the very essence of our embedded systems. They are specialized computers intended for a specific task. But specifically with the microcontrollers, we can achieve more of this part with low power consumption and cost efficiency. Okay, especially one reason I think that more people, more beginners are opting for Arduino-based projects or ESP-based projects because they are much cheaper than Raspberry Pi. And at the same time, there are many ways to manage their power consumption. Okay, unlike Raspberry Pi, it's not direct, or there are um, or Raspberry Pi is more power hungry or consumes more power than Arduino and the ESP projects. Okay, so na-mention ko na, already mentioned, common examples of microcontroller boards are Arduino Uno and say, there are actually many types of Arduino boards. Okay, but the most common, especially for beginners, is the Arduino Uno. Okay, and then we have ESP32 and even Raspberry Pi, but as long as it is Pico, the microcontroller type of Raspberry Pi, for smaller projects. Okay, and as you can see, basically, microcontroller boards are somewhat like the center of our embedded systems, and basically input, process, output. Input, we have our sensors, and say from sensors we have switches and push buttons, or we can have other things like potentiometers and keypads as our input devices or input components. Okay, input can also be some storage devices or an integration with other systems. Okay, we can capture data from other systems, and that could serve as our input as well. Okay, so process, of course, the microcontroller will do the processing, and then once it has processed the inputs, it will come up with some outputs. Okay, and the output will be taken care of by our output devices like our indicators, anything that lights, or probably our actuators, especially motor types of actuators and some linear actuators. Right? Or we can have some piezoelectric output devices such as our speakers. Okay. So at the same time, as you can see, we have our integration or interface. Our microcontroller boards usually have an interface with our memory devices or other systems, or from a laptop, or from I forgot another thing. It can communicate with other systems as well. Okay, so this is a sum up or a summary of what microcontroller boards can do actually, and let's try to dig deeper in the next slides. All right. So speaking of Arduino and microcontroller, ESP, here are the or here's an overview of what they look like, what components they have. Okay, so I try to make it quick, but you can take a screenshot or even you can download actually these images from the internet because I've taken from certain websites. Um, okay. Um, all right. As you can see, we have the Arduino board, left side, and the color blue one. Just in case you you can see my cursor. Um, Arduino Uno, basically, of course, we have the USB port for interfacing a computer where we write our code. Okay, so once our code is called a sketch, Arduino code. So once we are done writing our sketch, we basically upload that from the computer, whether that's a laptop or a desktop PC, um, up to the into this one, the microcontroller chip. So we can upload our software here and it becomes a firmware by interfacing through the USB port. Okay, so once we are done uploading, our software becomes a firmware and it stays there forever. So we only upload that code once and we only need to upload again if and only if we need to um, modify something in our code. Okay, or maybe we want to use the Arduino board to another application. So we upload another code. But take note that once you upload another code into our Arduino board, the previous one will be overwritten and it will be gone. Okay, so if you want to use that again, you have to upload again. You have to first you have to make sure you have a backup copy of that code or that sketch, and then just re-upload via the USB interface. Okay, and I believe we have a video later to demonstrate how it is done. Okay, and then we have the GPIO pins of Arduino, an Arduino board, especially Arduino Uno. So in the left side we have these pins, and on the right side we have these pins. So on the left side we basically have our analog input pins. So all in all we have 6 pins. You can just choose any of these. Okay, and then we have our other pins like supply, especially for power supply interfaces. And then on the right side, we have the digital I/O. So digital I/O, digital input and output devices. So we assign them there or we attach them there, right? So as you can see, ESP boards or Node MCU microcontroller boards, where we can have our ESP32 chips or ESP8266 chips. Um, they also have pins. However, the more or the main difference is it's not directly attached to the board, or we don't directly attach our wirings to the board. Instead, either we can only attach them via PCB or via breadboard. So either way, you can attach your inputs and outputs. While unlike Arduino, directly you can just plug in the wire connectors here. Okay, so that's the main difference, or these are the main things that you can see in Arduino on and Node MCU microcontroller boards. Okay, so let's talk about sensors and actuators. Uh, I I'll try to zoom in. Okay, so random. Okay, sensors basically are basically are input devices, one of the most common input devices in embedded systems. And there are so many types of sensors, and some of them are for measuring or for detecting temperature and humidity. So we have the DH22 sensor. Sometimes it comes in a modular form. So um, it depends on your needs. If you want a modular form or a bare one, a basic one. And we also have the gas sensor for detecting different gases, even including smoke and some toxic fumes. Ultrasonic sensor for usually for detecting proximity. We can use that for detecting water levels or detecting distance from a certain object. So, meaning we can use it for detection, for collision detection as well, especially in our robotics projects. So, they can serve as the eyes of our robot. Okay. Also, speaking of eyes, we also have the CMOS camera for taking videos, just like what a normal camera does. Okay, but sometimes it can be simpler, as simple as just detecting motion. So if you only want to detect whether there's something moving or none, um, you can use a PIR sensor or motion detection sensor. Okay, for applications that are have something to do with weather monitoring, we can have something like rain detector sensor, or for safety, we can have detector sensor, specifically flame detector. So it's based on light, if whether there's intense light or none. Okay? We have so many other sensors that are not here, but more likely, if you're going to build your first embedded system project, especially Arduino or microcontroller project, most likely you're going to encounter one of these sensors. Okay. Also, for actuators, two of the most common types of actuators are that we use are the motors and the relay, specifically DC motors. So there are many types of motors. DC, we have servo motors, stepper motors, and DC geared motors, and many others. Um, Relays, of course, motors are basically if you want some movement. Usually motors are what we need. But if you want to control large devices, if you want to just turn on or off anything automatically or remotely, then we use a relay. So for example, if you want when your motion sensor detects any motion, your 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 appliances will automatically turn on, or your as simple as your lighting will automatically turn on. So you can plug in different appliances here in each unit here, each channel of a relay, and then you can control them virtually or remotely or even automatically with the help of our sensors. And uh, what I mean by virtually and remotely is with the help of an app. So if you have an embedded system app or an app for your embedded system, then you can make use of that to create automations. Okay, you can automate anything, any electrical or electronic devices at your home or office or at work um, using this device. Okay, so base basically all you need is a relay if you want to do automations in your devices at home. Okay, so let's zoom out. Up too much. Right. So as I mentioned, sensors basically detect, measure. Our goal is either to detect or to measure physical properties and convert them into electrical. So meaning physical to electrical, we usually need a sensor. Now, if we want otherwise, vice versa, we need actuators. So, actuators convert electrical signals into physical action. So, electrical to physical actuators. So, when we say physical, that could be in terms of motion, sound, heat, anything that you study in physics or not, or anything else related to that. Okay, so here's an example. Let's try to zoom in. Okay, so here we have an example here. I'll try to move down so you can better see it. Okay, so here we have a PIR sensor. As I mentioned earlier, it basically detects motion. That color blue circle is the object, or it represents the object. So once it moves, it performs something like I think buzzing. So as you can see, the buzzer somewhat appears to be sounding like that. Okay, so it's an indicator that there's a sound going out of your buzzer, or the buzzer makes a sound, a buzzing sound. And, in addition, we can also log our events, what we call events. So any motion detected could actually be logged here. So maybe the program was intended to log each second. As you can see, each second or 2 seconds, there's a new log. Whether no one is there, no motion was detected, or a motion has been detected. Okay, so that's our first example. Another example here that we have, okay, I guess we have to zoom out first. All right. So we have another example here. As you can see, we have a motor. Specifically, I believe this is a servo or a DC geared motor because it has a driver. Okay, so DC geared motor. Basically, we have our what do you call this? An ultrasonic sensor. So if it detects an obstacle or any object in front of it, it rotates. Okay, so as you can see, so it reacts whether there is anything that intercepts its path, any obstacle in front of it. Once it is detected, then a certain action is done by our motor. Okay, so that's as simple as that. We have our input and then our output. So in between we have our microcontroller. That's the one who's making the decisions or processing the input to come up with a certain output. So I'm not going to teach you how to program, but I'm going to share a teaser. So just a glimpse of how programming is done. So in Arduino and even in ESP boards, we normally have the pin mode function. So in the pin mode function, we have to indicate here what pin do we want to set as an input or an output. So here we assign the pin, and then in this part, the text mode will uh, um, will be changed. Should have to be you should change it into either an input, an output, or an input pull up. Again, so when you use the pin mode, usually we use this in our digital IOs. If you can remember a while ago in a previous slide, we have I think pins 0 up to 13, digital pins 0 to 13. Because digital pins 0 to 13 can be assigned as either an input or output. So how will the Arduino board know whether you use those pins as input or output? We basically assign them. Okay, so again, pin number and then the mode, which is either input or output. Or if you want to use the internal resistor of our Arduino board, then you can have, instead of input, you have input pull up. Okay. So for example, um, we use a certain pin as our input. Okay. So when we use that as an input, we normally use the another function, digital read. So digital read, built-in function also of Arduino, wherein we just indicate the pin number. So when we do that, Arduino will return the high or low for digital input pins. So for example, push button. We use our input is a push button, as simple as push button. So whenever we push that, the the Arduino board will read that as a high input. Okay, meaning our whatever whatever that pin that you assigned here in your digital read function, let's say digital read um, 2. So that means pin 2 will be monitored by your Arduino board. So whether if you connect your push button on pin 2, whether you press or not. So if you press the pin 2 or the push button on your pin 2, it will return a high value. Okay. Once you release it or before you push it, it will return a low value. So there are only two possibilities, whether high or low. And normally, if you push, it becomes high. If you release, it becomes low. Okay. Similarly, if you use some types of sensor as digital inputs, okay, because some sensors can be used as either analog or digital inputs. But if you use a flame sensor, for instance, as a digital input, then basically Arduino is only concerned whether your the reading in that sensor has reached a certain threshold or not. Okay. So for example, if your threshold is around level 5 or 5 volts, 5 amperes or whatever, so if that's the threshold, if Arduino will check whether it has reached or not that threshold. So meaning if you it has reached that threshold, it will be detected as a high value or on. And while it has not yet reached that value, it will be registered as a low input. Okay, so reach the quota or the threshold high. If not, it's low. So that's basically what an input or what a digital input does. Okay. Now, how about output? So instead of digital read, if we are using an output, if we have pin mode that we indicate here an output, so we use a digital write for that for using whatever that device that you attach to your microcontroller or especially Arduino. So similarly, we indicate which pin do we want to apply our digital write function at. So for example, let's say pin 8. So you write here 8 and then the value that you want to write. So since it is digital, there are only two possible values. So either a high or a low. If you want something to be turned on, then you put high. If you want it to be turned off, then you put low. Okay, so pin number and then whether high or low. So you are the one who's setting to that pin number whatever output it should have, whether high or low. So as you can see, a very basic example of digital input or a digital output is the LED. Just be mindful of the cathode and the anode pins. Okay, so basically, if we write high, then it will turn on. That LED will turn on. But uh, if put here the value is low, then it will turn off. And similarly, another common digital output that I just mentioned actually a while ago is the relay. So either on or off. So if we input, if we write a high value on the pin where our relay is connected, then it will command whatever the device that is connected here, whether that's a washing machine or a welding machine or a TV or anything that you want to control, it will turn on as well. So if we write a high, a high on the value, then it will turn on. But if you write low, it will turn off. So that's what a relay basically does, on or off. And we use the same function, digital right, for our output. And then when it comes to analog inputs, so normally we use the analog read pin. And take note, in Arduino we have six inputs, analog inputs, while in ESP it's quite limited. I think in ESP8266, that's why it's less common because it can only accommodate one analog input. And I'm not sure lang about ESP32 if, but I know it's somewhat less than six or maybe around six. Okay, so just check. So analog read, we when we use the analog read function, we basically just choose which pin do we want to read. Which pin do we want to return an integer value that ranges from 0 to 1023. Okay, so when we, for example, we assign a0, we write here a0, then we can read the value from that pin. We expect a value that ranges from 0 to 1023, integer only. Okay, so we can capture whatever the input is getting. For example, if we use a potentiometer or a variable resistor, so whatever the adjustment that you have there will be interpreted as an integer that within between this range. Okay. Same thing if we use a certain sensor as an analog input, like a temperature sensor. Actually, the flame sensor can be used for this part as well. Okay. So for example, temperature sensor, if you use this as an analog input, then it will produce reading that ranges from 0 to 1023. Okay, so you basically have to convert that, um, do some conversions to get actual Celsius and Fahrenheit readings. Okay, that's for the input. And for the output, we use analog write. So basically, we just indicate, just like in our digital write, we use we just indicate which pin do we want to be to serve as our analog output and the value. Okay, so which value? This time we only have a value that ranges from 0 to 255. Okay, and take note, there's actually no actual analog output in Arduino. Instead, we only have PWM, or pulse width modulation output. Okay, so and take note that um, it is not available in ESP boards, ESP microcontrollers. And in Arduino, we normally use the servo library to simplify the instructions on controlling our servo motors. Okay, but if your output is basically a buzzer and you want it to be to sound louder, or the opposite, um, less louder, uh, we can directly use analog write. Okay. Also, if you want to control the brightness of the LED, then your LED now becomes a digital, I mean, an analog output using PWM. So PWM basically, that's still digital, digital signal that has varying pulses, or pulse widths. Okay, so the wider the pulse width, the higher the equivalent integer value here. Okay, or in other words, the larger the integer value, the wider the pass width that you produce in your output. Okay, and that somewhat um, that is something that the analog outputs like motors can read. So, in if you are using a servo, basically there's um, um, another way to write our values to the servo motors. Okay, and maybe you can see that in one of our next slides, or this one. Right. So here it's not moving. We have a PIR sensor as our input and a servo motor as our output. By the way, I'm using Tinkercad. So just search Tinkercad. There are many tutorials on YouTube. And I believe we have a video afterwards about showing an example of Tinkercad. So using Tinkercad, actually, you can simulate your circuits, even your Arduino circuits. I'm not sure lang. Problem is they don't have Raspberry Pi and DSP, so mostly for Arduino boards only. Okay, so this project basically detects motion. So once motion is detected, your servo turns to another angle. Okay, and you can observe the as you can see here, there's a part that we are indicating like this. I think this part, line 19, we are writing using this special function from the servo library. We are writing 90 degrees to our servo motor once this condition has been met. Okay, so all right. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. So let's have okay. Okay, that's all for now. So again, kindly scan the QR code or access this form and um, fill out. And you can also include your questions in our evaluation form if you have something in mind that you want to know more, and we'll try to answer them via our comments during the Q&A part. Okay, so while you are filling out this form, we have some videos for you. So